Elections are not just about political candidates. Elections should focus on the people, their level of satisfaction with the performance of elected officials, and the role government plays in their lives. Insights on PBS Hawaii brings you an important series focused each week on a conversation led by residents from one of the island communities in our state. What quality of life issues matter the most to them in this upcoming election? Join residents from Oahu for the next show in this series. Tonight's live broadcast and live stream of Insights on PBS Hawaii start now.
Aloha and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Daryl Huff with Hawaii News Now. 2 weeks ago, we started this series on quality of life on each of our islands. We heard first from Kauai residents who shared what makes their island home special for them, as well as what they'd like to see change. Last week, residents from the Big Island of Hawaii joined us and talked about some very different challenges they face on their island. For residents of both islands, though, close-knit community life and the beauty of their island were the most important reasons for why they live where they live. Tonight, we move to Oahu, the third largest of the Hawaiian Islands and home to our state capital of Honolulu. Will community life and beautiful landscape once again top the list of reasons people choose to live on this island? Or does city life and more jobs and services have the most appeal? Are Oahu's problems that much worse than the obstacles that face those on other islands? Let's find out. We'll hear from a longtime journalist, a professor at the University of Hawaii, a lifelong resident from the windward side of the island, and a young business professional from West Oahu. We look forward to your participation in tonight's show. You can email, call, or tweet your questions, and you'll find a live stream of this program at pbshawaii.org and the PBS Hawaii Facebook page. Now to our guests. Denby Fawcett is a newspaper and television journalist and former colleague of mine. She's an author of 2 books and a columnist for Honolulu Civil Beat. Denise Conan is the Dean of the College of Social Sciences at UH Manoa and a professor of economics. Henry Park recently graduated from UH West Oahu, congratulations, but hails from the windward side. He writes plays in Pidgin. And Kikoa McClellan lives on family land in Maili. He co-owns a local civil engineering firm and is the principal of a public affairs and management consulting firm. Our first question is going to be kind of positive. I think later on we might get into some of the challenges, but why do you folks choose to live on Oahu? Let me start with you, Henry.
Yes. Long
time from the windward side. What does all that mean to you? Would you ever live anywhere else?
I have lived other places, but as far as I'm concerned, Kaneohe is home to me. You know, the windward side. It's Oahu is Oahu, but I was going to school in Kapolei, and it's not the same. You know, it's the traffic, the heat. As soon as you come over through the tunnels, and you hit Kaneohe, and you look down on the bay, and the ocean, and the cool breeze, I'm home.
What else is it about Kaneohe that you like so much?
I like the people. I still know a lot of people. I mean, I've been there 70 years, off and on, mostly on. And most of the people, like, they're not in a hustle and bustle like in Honolulu. You know, I mean, Kaneohe people stop and talk to you, most of them, and anyway. And I don't find that in Honolulu.
Denise Conan from University of Hawaii, what do you find for yourself personally nice about being on Oahu? I understand you live in Kaneohe.
Well, you know, I moved here 25 years ago, and when I was thinking about that, when I first came, the thing that really brought me to Hawaii was the university, and it's so exciting to be part of a research university that's as vibrant as ours and as globally connected. But the real reason that I came here versus the other places I could have been was for family reasons. My husband's African, and so this I felt was a great place to raise my children, a place that welcomes diversity, that they would be validated for who they are, and it has been that. It's been terrific.
No, it's a great story.
Yeah.
Debbie Fawcett, long time.
Well, I grew up here, so you know it's very dear to me, and for kind of different reasons. One, I like the history of Hawaii. I like knowing I'm in a place where there's this strong history that wasn't really mine, where there was a whole Hawaiian kingdom here, and you go like down to Waikiki and you can think of Ka'ahumanu surfing down there. And then I like living by a dormant volcanic crater. I like the volcanism of Hawaii. It sounds strange to say that now because it can be so destructive and so terrible, but on the other hand, so beautiful, the craters, and to know living land is being created as we're sitting here.
You're also an outdoor person.
I'm an outdoor person, so I like living out of doors all year round and with clean air and sunshine most of the year, and to know you can just pop outside anytime.
Kikoa McClellan, your family actually has been on several different islands. I mean, your extended family. How do you choose to be on Oahu?
That's a good question. Well, I'm from Oahu, born and raised on Oahu. Asking a Hawaiian why you're in Hawaii is kind of like asking the Queen, why do you live at Buckingham Palace? You know, it's who you are. We are part of this place. It's in our bones. Our bones are here. Our names are of this place. My name is Kekoalau Li'iona Ko'olau. It's a name given to me, but it's also a place name. And so the idea of not living in Hawaii is just not something that crossed my mind. And I love it for a lot of the reasons that these others on the panel have shared. You know, it's beautiful. It's unique. The diversity that our host culture, I think, seeded with the spirit of aloha, where you can be different and that's okay. And you can look different and that's okay, because we all kind of come together and eat the same kind of food or different kind of food, and we have fun with each other, whether we're tall or short or any kind, and that's kind of neat. And we can be outdoors or indoors. We can have differences of opinion, and that's okay. And I choose to live on Oahu because my family is here. We're lucky to be in a space that's special to us and to our ohana, and it's part of who we are. So we wouldn't dream of being anywhere else.
Henry, I'm curious, as an author who writes in Pidgin, how much Pidgin are you surrounded by on Oahu as opposed to what you might be surrounded by on a neighbor island?
I know for a fact that Pidgin in Oahu is not Pidgin in Maui. It's not Pidgin in Big Island. I know I was talking to this friend of mine from Maui, and I said, "You guys still say some this, some that, you know, some hot, some," and so I said, "Oh, I don't know that." And he says, "How did you know that?" He says, "That's what we say in Maui. I don't know." He said, "I don't know." You know?
Yeah, and the Big Island has some of its own phrases,
yeah,
too.
Even in Hawaii, we've got, if you get Pidgin in Waianae as compared to Pidgin in Waimanalo or Hawaii Kai or Kaneohe, it's like, you know, wow, pretty diverse Pidgin.
It's different in Honolulu now. Yeah?
Yeah.
And we click in and we click out.
Oh, yeah,
And you have old Pidgin and new Pidgin,
Yeah,
two old phrases.
One of my stories I wrote, and I said, I presented to my professor, I said, check this out in the back. I said, I think my English still getting gooder every day. and she put it on the front page in bold print, you better think again.
You know, to Denise's point, though, I mean, the opportunity to both live in Hawaii, but also be involved in a highly challenging professional, you know, acting in a career at the highest level must also be part of the appeal of Oahu as opposed to the neighbor islands where there's not so many of those kinds of jobs. I mean, do you think that's what we're
I would think so very much, unless you're in certain industries like astronomy on the Big Island, but yeah, there are more opportunities to go to the top of your career here.
You know, when we talk about the value of these jobs, though, I mean, it is kind of restrictive, and it's hard to think. I mean, how many of our children will end up staying here, right, because of the situation? I mean, we're lucky we can live here, right? So the next thing we'd like to talk a little bit about is tourism, and we're having the biggest tourism year that we've ever had, and you know, it's sort of rippling out. So I'd be curious, you know, Kikoa McClellan, tell us about where you live and how you've been impacted in Maili.
That's a really good question. So when you come through Nanakuli, and you come around the point, and there's a 76 on the right and a park on the left, we're right there next to the
so we
park.
can come to your house next time. Thanks for the directions.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's public parking at the door, the park next door.
All right.
But it's changed, and some of it's good. Our friends at Ko'olina have invested tremendously in local people. There are quality jobs there, many quality jobs there. Kapolei is growing. And at the same time, we noticed a couple years ago that Now there are tourists in Nanakuli catching the bus out there, which is great. It's great to see them out there. Coinciding with this growth in interest on our side of the island is more traffic. An obvious topic, the West Side guy is going to talk about how traffic is the worst anywhere in the world, how there are days where my wife or I will spend more time in a car commuting than it takes to fly to California. No joke. Right?
Yeah,
And these are
I've
real
heard
problems that are exacerbated by tourism. Most challenging is the cost of housing. Housing costs are only going to get more and more expensive. My wife and I were fortunate enough to buy some property from family so that we could have a place to call ours forever. And it was more money than we could have afforded, but we got lucky.
Let me move to Henry. So the windward side has been really impacted by vacation rentals and so on. Have you seen that in your neighborhoods?
In Kailua, definitely in Kailua. In fact, the homes in Kailua average 940-something thousand. And in Kaneohe, it'd be like 740,000. You know, where I was living when I was living in Kailua, right next to us, they had this big condos coming up. And it was shocking to me. It was the first thing they put up was the sign for sale, affordable housing. $775,000, affordable housing.
Let me bring up the issue of the vacation rentals, though, too. We have a graphic about this where it talks about how there's a shortage of hotel rooms, and so they're now moving out in the communities more than ever. We have a statistic here that says 76% of the visitors only come to Oahu out of 10 million. 58% are repeat visitors. 65% are hotel-only accommodations, which means 35% are out and about. And so, Demi, what do you think of that impact on, when you talk about housing costs? Is your sense that the housing costs are being affected by this?
I think everything's being affected by it. Because right now there are 2,200, SMS Research tracked it for the Tourism Authority, and there are 2,200 illegal rentals, and that's like 4,500 room hotels in tourist. It's huge, and it's impacting everything. It's ruining neighborhoods with the noise. I mean, if people are vacationing, living next to you, they're having parties and inviting all their friends and weddings.
They don't
and
care.
Making noise. And I think I blame our government for not looking at it straightforward. They just bumble around and don't do anything about identifying where the illegals are and enforcing it. I mean, everyone this year just walked right around it and didn't do anything.
There's a lot of finger pointing going on in that issue.
A lot of finger pointing on that issue.
Yeah, and people say about tourism, well, it's a balance. But I think that's just a cover. The balance is tipped too far the other way. We have to bring it back. And not only just with vacation rentals, but also managing the resource that we have, like too many people. I go to the farmer's market at Diamond Head, and the bathrooms there are broken. There's only one for women, one stall for these thousands of people coming in. And I know the farmer's market, people that run it have asked the big Japanese tourist companies to please pitch in, because you're selling these
Demby, I think it's a good point. We need to have more investment in kind of public infrastructure that goes along with the visitors, and taxes need to be in place that kind of capture that kind of impact. I feel like that's true with roads, that's true with public parks.
Tourism, I don't think we need to put a new tax on people over that, but I think we need to take like
there is
with
a
these
question
illegal,
whether visitors are paying, the proper taxes, like the hotel room taxes, when they're in the private.
Well,
private settings.
yeah, they definitely, if they were made to be not illegal and we knew where they were, then you could tax.
I think you hit it on the kini popo, both of you. So, and full disclosure, I work with the American Hotel and Lodging Association. We have 150 plus member properties in Hawaii and 110,000 local employees here. For AHLA, the concern is not just that illegal short-term rentals are competing with our hotels, and we've done the research. So CBRE looked at just the Oahu market and found that 87% of all these illegal short-term rentals, they're whole home rentals. It's not tutukane, renting
Yeah,
out
that's right.
the back room. Very different than a B&B.
They're companies.
Very different than a B&B. And of those, the majority are operating more than one. In fact, 27% of them are operating 20 or more whole home rentals. And they're all, unfortunately, not from Honolulu, and they're not from the Big Island. They're from the mainland.
Let me
These
just
are
throw this out
investments.
to the panel, though. I mean, in terms of your quality of life, which is going back to the original part of question that we're asking, do you feel, and I'm going to start with you, Henry, that the number of tourists that we have coming here has significantly negatively impacted your quality of life, personally?
Well, I'm going to go back to when I was living in Kailua. Okay. Kailua reminds me of Waikiki in the 60s, maybe worse. It's like if you walk down the streets, the sidewalk is hundreds of Japanese tourists, you know. And I was, unfortunately, I was living in a bed and breakfast for about 7 months. You know, it's like an old studio. I'm paying almost $2,000 a month, you know. And it was one house with the owner and like 3 bed and breakfasts all around. And because it was obvious it's bed and breakfast because these other 2 are just coming and going, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I mentioned this once before. It was mentioned in a meeting that someone said, "Oh, the illegal bed and breakfasts are good for Kailua's economy," and I'm like thinking, did this person just say illegal?
You know, Denise, as an economist yourself, do you think that we've gone past the tipping point? It sounds like you do, that we're no longer getting fair value, it's now negative value out of the tourism industry.
Well, I think we do. We would benefit from having policies in place that help to recognize the kind of social impacts, public impacts that visitors have. We rely on the visitor industry. We need a dynamic visitor industry. That's a core part of our state. But to regulate more, you know, conditions under which visitors come in with housing and the taxes that are paid for that, and then to invest in mitigation measures is really important. Parking, for example, and traffic that's impacted in certain geographic areas. You know, there's a lot of value in that. One thing we're doing at the university right now is some economic valuation studies on the economic value of, say, Waikiki Beach. And if you go down to Waikiki, you'll see there's a real need to invest in our public infrastructure down there and our beaches, the quality of our beaches, and to think about how the visitor industry can contribute to the quality of our environment and our,
Okay.
you know, I think that's
I'm going to make an arbitrary ruling here. I think we've done enough on tourism for the moment.
great.
We
Oh,
can go back.
darn.
I know. It's been 15 minutes. I think that's enough time. What jumps out when we were invited to this program? What other quality of life issue jumps out for you guys the most besides that? Let me start with you, Kekoa.
That's a great question.
Maili.
Being from Maili, I think it's obvious. It's traffic, and can my kids afford to live here? It's real simple. I mentioned already that sometimes we, and I'm not exaggerating, spend more time in a car than we do at home with our kids. In fact, one of our kids owes his life to a cement truck spill. We got so tired of driving to and from work. It was Saturday morning. Saturday morning, we go into town, we have our kid with us. There was a cement truck spill on a Saturday afternoon. My wife and I were just incensed. We said, we're not going to go home. We're going to get a hotel room. 9 months later, we had our son. Our son owes his life to the fact
That's a stretch.
that we are.
Good story.
Traffic is so bad that if there's
So traffic
on a
basically
Saturday,
ruined your sex life.
well, it gave us a child. But my point is, it's so bad that a young couple that is that frustrated on a Saturday afternoon, you shouldn't have to deal with these sorts of issues.
Let me continue with that point. We've got a couple of graphics here. One is about the commuter flow from Kapolei into town. The other is about the commuter flow within urban Honolulu. And it might take us a couple seconds to get this out, but basically, if you look at this graphic, you know, it basically says that only 7.1% of the population that lives in Kapolei actually works anywhere near where they live.
Yeah,
and then if you look at the urban Honolulu graphic, it's close to 84% actually live near a place where they live. And it's, you just think about that movement of people on a daily basis, and we go back, Debbie, to planning and government, and why did we end up here, right? What do you think? You don't face too much traffic.
No, I can't talk about traffic because I don't face it. And then where I live, I have many routes to take if there's traffic. But I think back to problems, the housing. That bothers me so much because I see this push toward affordable housing and then no one can afford it. It's just, you look at what people have to pay. I was reading an article in the Star Advertiser that a studio of 300 square feet in Kaka'ako could be from $1,200 to $1,500 a month. And no one's addressing poor people like happened in the 60s where we had subsidized housing and we had a realistic view of what people need that don't have money.
On that point, one caller writes, how would raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour impact the quality of life on Oahu?
Wouldn't.
Because it's not enough.
Yeah, it's way not enough.
Not
You're
even
talking
close.
like hundreds of thousands of dollars people have to earn now to buy it.
How off is it, the economies of living on Oahu for the people who live here?
I think for entry level like that, many are relying on an ohana setting, and that's how they're able to survive through family and
monster homes.
And
Oh yeah.
more and more so.
Yeah, how does that back up into? I mean, obviously, as a professor and teacher at UH, do you watch your graduates just leave because they can't?
Well, I was going to say, when you said what are some of the biggest challenges, I do think that opportunities for our young people is something we really need to think about. We see a brain drain happening with so many of our young people leaving the state to go to college, and so I've been really committed to trying to find more ways to keep students at the University of Hawaii. But also, how do we kind of create more vibrant industries, entrepreneurship, and innovation, small and medium-sized enterprises that the youth can kind of plug into and have good career opportunities. We have success in that. I mean, there's success stories. Victoria, who was here just now, came back from London, study abroad, and is poised.
But as much as we know and appreciate Victoria, the cost of a typical beginning salary in a
there's a lot of obstacles for the youth, and so to me that's a big challenge, and something we really need to step up to for the future generations.
Henry, what's your perspective on that?
No, I was reading somewhere and I was talking to a doctor, and he was saying, oh, his son is going to be a doctor too. So I said, oh, good, and you guys going to have a father-son thing? He said, no way. His son does not want to stay in Hawaii because it's not very feasible. He doesn't want to work for his dad, and he can't afford to make his own practice. And he said the hospitals, don't afford the opportunities he's going to have, say in New York or someplace. I forget where he wanted to go. Some big city is where he wanted to go. Yeah.
Keikoa McClellan, I saw you bringing in a couple of rugrats running around this morning.
That's right.
What do you think about your children's future on Oahu? Now you have property, but I mean, in the long term, what do you worry about?
It's frightening. It's mortifying. My wife and I, we do okay for ourselves. My wife, Makana McClellan, she's the public information officer for the Queens Health System. Good, steady job. I have a couple of companies that provide well for our family. We've had support from family over the years. We do okay, and we still qualify for support from the Kamehameha schools to send our kids to other private schools. There's a problem when professionals like my wife and I still qualify for support to send our kids to schools, and we do well for ourselves. Housing is the problem. Not to bring it up again, but the reality is we know that we need at least 25,000 more units by 2035. We're short that much, and we want to make that many. We have more illegal short-term rentals right now than that number operating in the state. To Denby's point about better policies, we can get there and we can cover some of the gap. But my kids, who are 5 and 4, and we have one on the way, a third child due next month, will never be able to afford the kind of home that they live in unless they're the CEO of a major company in Hawaii.
Well, let me throw this out. I mean, the same thing is true with me. I mean, I can't afford to buy the home that I was raised in Aina Haina. But Denise, how much do you think the cost of housing is the linchpin problem? And maybe there's other problems that lead to that, but do you feel like that the cost of housing is
housing,
the fundamental issue?
you know, the housing issue is a major issue, and we do need to figure that out. I think education too is one that I've been very focused on, creating more opportunities for our public schools to be strong and for families to feel like that's a great choice. You know, and that would make a more affordable opportunity here. So
it would make your lifestyle more affordable if you don't have to pay $30,000 for 3 kids to go to private school.
So I've been, you know, at the university, we've been working more closely with our public schools to try to elevate the opportunities there. Roosevelt High School is really close to UH Manoa, and we've launched a kind of an early college program called Manoa Academy, and Roosevelt has really jumped onto that. Quite a number of students getting early college opportunities while at Roosevelt. We have 5 students from Roosevelt and Lahaina Luna High School actually in Beijing right now as part of a bridge program for these students who graduated to have that kind of global experience before they come to Manoa. So, you know, those kinds of efforts we can do to invest in our public schools to make that a more affordable choice. Because if you add tuition and you add housing, you know, also, you know, for me as a mom, when I had infants and early childhood education is a key issue.
Very expensive. Oh, crazy. Not
All
even
of that
available,
is,
let alone affordable.
Yeah, you need
available.
to get back though to jobs, and we, you know,
jobs.
we have these phony statistics out there, like unemployment is 2%, the lowest in the country, and that it's
shows our per capita
so
income up there.
phony that statistic, because it's not showing that the employed, many of them have 3 part-time jobs, or they've got jobs that don't pay a living wage. So all these things that we're discussing tonight, housing and schools and good health, if you don't have any money, you know, back to what you were talking about, I think we need to start thinking of jobs other than service, professional services, tourism, healthcare. We need to think of entrepreneurial jobs. I mean, that's where it's going to be in the future.
Where do you think, Denise Conan, is the realistic place for that kind of growth in terms of diversifying an economy and having higher paying jobs? Is it, where's the cart, where's the horse on that? If you have a lot of young graduates coming out of our schools prepared for those jobs, they might be attracted, or do you have to bring the industry first?
Well, you know, I think there's a chance for us to use some of the challenges that we have and try to turn that into opportunities and strengths. And I do think that if we're more, we could be more globally connected and take advantage of global opportunities and the networks we have with more innovation. And so I believe there's opportunities if we can take away some of the regulation facing small businesses for these you know, ideas to flourish, and it is this younger generation that's going to lead us in some of these things.
They have the ideas, but then what we need is the support. And now we have these incubators. Someone goes in, and then it ends there. It's private sector as well as government that has to be, because that's the way education is going now. Like the school I went to is all training people to come up. They're not going to be working for a company or the government.
Henry, it sounds like a little bit, in your experience, you've described several different places you've lived and how expensive it's been. How do you feel about the housing situation in terms of the ability of families to get by? What's it like in a neighborhood where almost every house that does have local families in it has got 3 generations in it? You know,
Yeah, because like you guys are just addressing them. You're not making enough money, to buy a house, and a lot of them are like uneducated, right? And so I was just doing. We're just talking about something where if you're part Hawaiian, you can get at least 21 grand to go to school a year. Like you can go to Winter Community College, you get $21,000. But they don't want to, I don't know. A lot of them don't want to do it, and then so they're stuck with these minimum wage jobs.
They get attracted to a job. A job sounds good if it makes 13, 14, 15 bucks an hour when you're coming right out of high school. That sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah, and but then you have a child, then what?
Aren't you counseling people, helping them?
I started a page on. I didn't really start a page, but I did this thing where on Facebook. Okay, I offered to get these guys. I'd hold by the hand, take them to the register in school, take them to the financial aid office, and take them to where they can get tutors, free printing, and I had 0 people contact me. 0. And another time I went to a kanikapila. I sat in the hot sun for 10 hours with 5 pounds of candy. I got rid of all the candy. 0 people wanted to get into college.
What's going on there? I mean,
exactly.
What did they say to you? Like, what was the reason?
Oh, I don't want money. I said, you don't need money. That's what I'm going to take. I'm going to show you how to get money. Oh, I'm not smart enough. I said, dude, it took me 52 years to graduate from college. Talk about not smart.
Took me 5, but it felt like a long time at the time.
Yeah. Or the other one is like, oh, I gotta work. I said, how much are you making? Oh, $12 an hour. I said, I can get you more money in scholarships than you can make working. I'll get back to you later.
What do you, as somebody who spent a lot of time on the leeward coast of Oahu, what attitudes do you see out there toward the ability to move up? Do people feel stuck?
I think cyclical poverty is a very difficult thing to break. I was fortunate. It took me forever to get a college degree. I mean, forever. Once I got my undergrad, a couple years later, I finished my executive MBA. But that's not normal. I grew up living in Kaneohe and Kailua and spending weekends and summers and whatnot out in Maili. We moved out there permanently 5 years ago. It's a different place. There are different attitudes. If you're asking me why local people don't feel like they can access quality education, and we all know the answer, it starts when they get into kindergarten. My wife and I, now that we have children of age to go to school, are looking at all the schools. So various people rate schools. Here's why we have to pay for private school. Our daughter, if she doesn't go to a private school, would go to Maili Elementary. Depending on how you rate them, there are different scales. This particular scale was 0 to 100. Number 1 was Lanikai on the other side of the island. They scored a 99. Anyone want to guess what Maili Elementary scored out of 100? Throw a number out there.
35.
9.
What?
A 9 out of 100. So where we live, there's a 9, and in Lanikai, there's a 99. We don't have the option of sending our kids to public school. And when you start at a 9, your entire experience on that coast is one that teaches you to believe that the education system is not the answer for you.
Well, let me bring this up, and I know that Denise Conan wanted to talk about this subject about public and private schools. An attitude toward the public schools that says, I'm not going to succeed if I go to that school, is a self-defeating attitude. Yeah. And my kids both went to public schools and did fine, not far from where you live in Kapolei, but here's a caller as a public school teacher and is having a hard time empathizing with you, who claims to be struggling to send kids to private school. Once again, public schools get slammed. Denise, do you think it's fair for people to make assumptions? Now, he did an analysis, which is more than a lot of families do.
Yeah, I mean, well, here I think that there's a culture of sending your children to private school. There's a culture of sending your children away for college, and it's, you know, there's that's understandable part of our history, but the future doesn't have to be like that. And I do think that our public schools really are quite strong. I know the University of Hawaii is a top flight university. It was rated in the top 2% of world universities just recently. I mean, we're doing amazing work at the University of Hawaii, and yet it tends not to be appreciated in its own backyard. And I know our public schools, that's why I brought up Roosevelt. I think they're doing an amazing job, terrific job, and we want to support them. I do think there is this need to work together for the state and for us to support our public schools.
Let me throw out this interesting comment from a caller. Hawaii has already split between haves and have-nots. What can we do to stop the wealthy from buying out all the properties and land? How concerned are you about, when you look at it, we've got incredibly high property prices and incredibly low income. So it's not the local people that are causing the prices to go up. That's correct. I mean, how much should we worry about this income inequity and basically waves of rich people coming in and displacing the middle class? And
it's very worrisome. In the neighborhood, I grew up in Kahala Avenue on the beach, and it was a rural neighborhood then. I kept my horse there in back where Waialae Kahala is. So we're all local families, all kids playing together, a normal neighborhood. And now it's not only gone from just foreigners, but it's people that will never live there. They're just money parking places. And you see these houses going up, they're empty, no one's there. And they claim A and B, oh, we're gonna sell only to local people, but someone figures a local connection to, and it's very worrisome because they're selling for $20 million our old rural neighborhood, and then that trickles down to all the other houses.
Well, and even where they are building, we could talk a little bit about Kaka'ako.
Oh, yes.
There was a recent Civil Beat article I thought was very interesting about how the people who are in the new Park Lane can have someone from there go and hold them a place on the beach until they get there. And even though there is affordable housing going up in Kaka'ako, Stanford Carr has been kind of a leader at that. It's certainly not the message that we get about what the future is. What concerns do you have about that?
I've got a lot of concerns about this because I hope to buy other property in Hawaii, and I hope my kids can buy property in Hawaii someday. And there are things we can do to fix it. Park Lane is not the bad guy. Park Lane complied with everything the city asked of them to do. Park Lane, we all know people that live at Park Lane. Well, some of us do, And
don't, because my friend's father lives there and it's empty. Well, we go there and there are no people there.
But anyway,
the problem isn't when local developers get together to build a condo that's going to comply with all the city and county of Honolulu's requirements and ordinances. The problem is, what are we doing at the city and state level to ensure that we have affordable housing mechanisms in place? And it goes back to whether you're using your home or your property for a conforming use. When 25,000 illegal short-term rentals are pulling supply out of the long-term rental pool or out of the housing pool, you can't solve the problem. When, person X LLC can drop in out of nowhere and buy 12 homes and put them on a market, and there's a market for it, we have to solve those problems, and we can. Right now, there are 8 unique ordinances at the city and county level, Maui, Big Island, and Honolulu, to address how we encourage owners.
You've been studying.
I have been studying. How we encourage owners to use their residential or apartment or BMX zone property for its appropriate
Kauai
use.
has that. They have a tax structure that goes with it. They've been one of the first to really look at it. But we don't on Oahu.
We throw out another thing. I want to honor our callers who are calling in. If you make housing cheap, won't that create more people wanting to move to Hawaii? Am I missing something? But Hawaii is expensive because it's desirable. Simple supply and demand. I mean, how much? That's true to a large extent, isn't it?
It's hard. Like, I was just arguing with someone the other day. They said, "Well, we're selling to too many foreigners. We're selling to too many people from the mainland and everything." I said, how can you tell someone, like, how can I tell Kikua, you cannot make money. You got to sell it for X amount, and when Noah comes along and offers $1 million more, I mean, of course you're going to sell it to him.
You know, so in Monaco, they have the same problem, right? Monaco, tiny, tiny principality. Yeah. Everybody with money wants to move there. So the tax on a home in Monaco is the purchase price of the home. You buy a home, you pay the same amount of money in tax. So that's the first protection they do. But more importantly, we can do certain things. Mayor Caldwell took an interesting look at this, and he said, you know what? If it's not your primary residence, we're going to charge you more for it. We're going to charge you more in real property tax on that residence. There are ways that we can discourage.
Well, I mean, that's always been the case. I mean, you know, the homeowner occupancy exemption has always been there, but
we're going to charge you a lot more.
Well, yeah, it needs to charge. It's really not that much more. I mean,
I think people come here if it's expensive or not. I mean, it's a magical place, and I don't think it would stop people if we had, you know, would encourage more people. I don't think people say, oh, I'm not coming here because it's expensive.
I'm going to throw out a kind of a loaded question here because I'm kind of getting this sense that there's a lot of feeling like our government has not done things to prevent us from being in this gripe session right now. You know, I'm hearing that we could tax more people more and then use that money to support things like education, like roads, like affordable housing. But what's the capability of the people you see in office today to handle those questions as we head into an election where all the same people are running?
Well, they need to look at more, well, they need to pay attention in the first place. And Maliu Mai, you know, listen, look. They don't. But there are creative things you can do that don't mean more taxes. Well, in some ways they do. Like one for housing, if you won't enforce these vacation rentals, tax them more. Tax them as businesses. They're in residential neighborhoods. They should be paying a higher commercial tax rate. Do that. And look at ways where you can get money that doesn't stress our community, our residents living here. Well, that's one example.
The council did put 10 more positions for building inspectors into the budget.
Yeah.
But, you know, if they have to go walk in and actually see the tourist paying the bill to be able to enforce it, that gets a little bit.
Yeah, you need enforcement.
Enforcement is
they
the whole
don't
thing,
enforce
you know,
anything.
like, Bombay are going to take care of that. You know.
Yeah, and they
always Bombay are going to take care of that.
Henry, your own thoughts about the sense of all this richness, rich people coming in and displacing local people. Do you feel that that's out there? Is there a sensation in the community?
The people I've been talking to, a lot of them say, well, we're discussing something about China, okay? If you're in China, you got to get your money out of there because, you know, you don't know what's going to happen to it. So, of course, then you're going to buy kaka'ako. You know? I mean, wouldn't you if you were in China? And, like, you don't know what's going to happen with the government and the banking and whatever. So, hey, 20 million is cheap.
Well, what prevents them from doing that? Everybody seems to here at this table think it's a great idea. Why don't they? Tax them. I mean, to that degree.
Good question.
Maybe is there another side to that equation? I mean, I imagine there would be developers and builders that would say, well, but then you're going to kill our market, or then, you know, they're not.
Oh, their market's doing fine.
Yeah, they just want the money today. You know, I don't think they're worrying about tomorrow's market.
Okay, so here's a person has a question about traffic. I think we could start moving a little bit more into looking ahead and seeing what's out there. You know, we'll talk a little bit about rail and redevelopment around rail, that sort of thing. But from a viewer comment solution, would it be feasible for a plastic card installed in all cars that only allow gas, electricity to be filled if the 3 requirements, license, registration, and insurance, are done, paid for by the gas companies and reducing? So outlaw drivers, and maybe the quality of life would be better and fewer cars would be on the road.
Outlaw drivers?
You know, people, these are outlaw drivers that don't pay all their taxes.
No insurance, no registration.
Outlaw drivers.
So that's one new idea. What do you guys think needs to happen right away? What would be the first thing that you would try and do? Denise, I'm going to make you do it. You look the most like you're trying to choose between
I'm thinking we're just talking about the challenges that households are facing, right, and disparities in income, and then, you know, part of the reason why you have that kind of situation, it is a very, yeah, I mean, I worry about such a policy as that.
What about
the state is too blue for a policy like that. It's just not going to happen.
No.
It's never going to happen.
No,
You don't want to stop people from getting to work because they let their insurance lapse or they let their registration lapse. But fewer cars on the roads, great idea. How you do it, I don't know.
I got a question to bring up about this. Talking about cars on the road, what about the cars on the side of the road? You know, there's so many abandoned cars. You go to Kaneohe or Hauula or Ka'ava. I mean, I'm shocked. You know, I mean, these cars have been there like for months. You
Isn't
know,
it sort of a basic function of government to be able to get abandoned cars off of the road? I mean, is government even doing its basic job in this island?
Well, if they don't do potholes, why would they do cars?
what I read was they don't have any place to tow them. You know, these tow yards, the government had rented this parking lots by a golf course or something, and they're full of military cars. So my idea was, well, why don't we just drop them off, tow them back to the military bases? I mean, there are people dropping them because we cannot sell them. The government cannot just sell the cars because technically they belong to this guy who's not ever going to come back to Hawaii.
Let me throw out some votes from our viewers here. Oahu is overpopulated, overdeveloped, and poorly planned for a major metropolitan area. Property income tax restructuring is needed to improve public education, healthcare, and infrastructure. I think that's what you guys all said. Heartfelt request the legislature to please reprioritize education first regarding funding. So that's a vote from a former school teacher. The rail is being advertised as the big fix for affordable housing, for transportation, for many of these things, for jobs. Do you guys think that that's a fair way of pitching rail? Do you think it will have the kind of fundamental change? Kekoa?
I live in Maili. Any positive change is a good thing for us. You look at where it is, where it's situated. You look at where it's going to go. I think it's going to transform the way a generation exists in this corridor. The people that don't oppose it, or that do oppose it, you know, they're never going to get any value out of it. I understand why they don't want to spend 10 or 12 or whatever many billion we end up spending on the project. But the point is, it's not for them. It's for people who are my age or younger. It's for people who actually want to live, work, and play. And it expands our opportunity to do that along a much broader corridor. It's integral to the success of the 21st century economy in Honolulu.
You know, one thing I think would be so exciting, though, to have a conversation with rail and the future of this state where we're taking a more long-run view and we're starting to kind of more strategically plan out what does transit-oriented development actually look like, and instead of kind of leaving it to you know, randomness, which it seems now, to really be strategic about it. I think there'd be opportunities to address some of these issues, like bringing jobs closer to where people live and simplifying their lives, creating an education corridor in some areas, you know, creating a hub for different industries.
You know, it sounds like you're saying
we could plan that out.
Yeah, well, see, that's what the last caller was saying. It's badly planned, right?
Badly planned, right? Because no one is taking this kind of long view, and it's hard for politicians to do that because they're focused on, you know, short-term cycles.
The long view, it's interesting, and you have to, because things are changing so much. Like rail, one worry I have that it may be obsolete by the time we get to it, but off of rail there'll be all these new ways of moving that we have to think about. Like I see a day where you'll just be in your house and on your computer call up a pod that will carry you somewhere in the time of traffic where you won't get stuck because the algorithm will figure it out.
Well, you know, you bring up that point, and one of our fastest growing part of our educational enterprise right now is online and digital learning. So we're finding more and more students really are gravitating to wanting to take their courses online. And I think that changes dramatically how we think about the university. And yet, you know, is that discussion happening?
That's true, but you know, people still want to hang out. Guys still want to meet chicks at the mall. You know, like you can't just sit at home all day long and infrastructure. Yeah, right. Infrastructure like rail allows you to do that. It's important.
But it could be, so how are we planning to
shout out to our policymakers, Denise. We've kind of poo-pooed them a lot tonight, and some of them deserve it. The reality is, every one of us has an opinion. And can you imagine being a city council member in Honolulu who has 110,000 constituents and has to be responsive to the 5,000 of them that reach out to them every year? It's a hard job.
Let me ask Henry, as a Windward resident, what do you think about the rail? Do you think it might ripple out effects that will help you with housing or anything like that?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh no, you know,
You got 3 freeways though.
yeah, because you know where I live, it takes me 30 on a bad day, 35 minutes to get to West Oahu school, you know, from Kahaluu. On a bad day, 35 minutes.
Simply because.
But
you're
I
driving
see
against traffic, yeah.
you guys coming this way. I mean, it's like,
It's horrible, Henry.
I mean, it's like 10 miles. I see 10 miles of traffic just stop, and I was like, Almighty God, please help them.
I would love an electric car that I could just punch in my coordinates and get to. It might happen. We've been talking about rail since 1975 in this state, when my father graduated from high school, and it's still not built. We need to just get it done.
Your father graduated the same year I did. Then.
That's right.
Well, but the other interesting point that one of these callers made is, you know, we don't pay enough attention to even Native Hawaiian and the cultural separations. This caller was, and I lost the card, I apologize, was saying we're not paying enough attention to our native culture. And if we did, a lot of these, we might be able to see things differently than the way we're seeing them. There's a sense of that, Henry? What do you think?
Funny you should mention that. I just, the last class I had to take to graduate was in Ho'oponopono. You know, and I learned more. I went to Kamehameha school, you know, but we went to learn to be white, you know.
Yeah.
We didn't, there was no Hawaiian, nothing. Of course, we all knew the songs for the song contest, but we didn't know what they meant, you know.
Right, in the 60s, yeah.
Yeah, but this whole Ho'oponopono class opened me up to, I think the key one we learned was forgive. Forgive what has happened to us, forgive this, forgive that, and learn to get along and move forward, you know. As far as the culture, it's like the campuses now, you know, I go to Windward Community College, I go to West Oahu, they have these huts that, you know, hollies that, I met the girl that makes them. I was like, wow, I was fascinated. That's her job. You know, just go around and make these authentic Hawaiian hollies. I was like,
really?
wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How do we see that helping us in the future, though, Hawaiian culture?
Because there was like, when I signed up for this class, I was the only student. Okay. By the time this started, there was 18 of us in there. I was still the only student, you know, and we ended up with 3 students and 15 people that wanted to learn about the culture. And I was like, wow.
I think the thing about the culture, though, too, is it also respects the challenges of the First Peoples, you know, and in addressing that, you know, in terms of helping them see the future in a more positive way. But
You brought up the university on this point, and tomorrow we have a group called Na Ko'oko'o, which is a Native Hawaiian, taking Native Hawaiian principles of leadership and taking a group of Hawaiian students through principles of Hawaiian leadership in practice, and we're finding that those students are going on to at a higher rate to graduate school and careers, and that they're the kind of learning by going back to indigenous knowledge really fits this place.
Yes, I need to move to the last question that we warned you about. Okay.
Yes.
So we've asked this at each of these shows. Former Big Island Mayor Billy Kenoi is credited with posing an interesting question. As a resident of Hawaii, do you believe we are a state of islands or an island state? Go ahead, Denby, you go first.
Well, I used to believe that we were state of islands, because when I grew up, my best friend came from Kauai, and it was like she was coming to another country when she came to our school to be a boarder. But I think today, with today's communication, that we are an island state.
Well, I think so too. I feel like we maybe are a state of islands, but we have such an opportunity to be an island state that would add a great strength. We have a lot of efforts at the university to try to take advantage of the many components of our campuses across the 10 island states. I think we're stronger for that.
I think we are both a state of islands and an island state. We are so unique. Oahu is different. Kaneohe is different from,
right?
Yeah. The point is, our differences are cool, and they're what make us special, and we celebrate them. And when you go somewhere outside of Hawaii and you run into someone, it doesn't matter whether they're from Kauai or Niihau or wherever, they're from Hawaii, and you have a tie.
Yeah.
Henry?
Good point.
I'd really like to believe they were a state of islands, you know. But like Keiko just said, yeah, when you go somewhere in the mainland, like, oh yeah, you're from Hawaii, you know, I don't care if you're from Niihau. But I think in reality, every island is kind of, and it's kind of like on their own. Yeah, they're thinking that, you know, like the big island right now, I can see, you know, they have their problems, but I know some guys from Maui, and they think Maui's better, and these guys think they're better, and but we're still all from Hawaii.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, guys. And mahalo to all of our viewers for joining us tonight. And we thank our guests, Denby Fawcett, journalist, Henry Park, retired pigeon author, Denise Conan, Dean and Professor at UH Manoa, and Keikoa McClellan, independent contractor. Next week on Insights, a huge contrast from what we heard tonight. Residents from the Friendly Isle will share with us what the quality of everyday life is like on Molokai. This will be the first of 3 shows focused on Maui County's island communities. I'm Daryl Huff for Insights on PBS Hawaii. Ahui ho.